All right, fun times. Welcome everybody to our AFC webinar, 10 tips and tricks for Zoom conferences and meetings. We won't keep you really long. We'll get through some of this stuff. And I've got some people watching the chat. So if you got a question, please feel free to ask it in the chat, and we'll get to it. We'll try to catch it and get to it. Jumping right into the presentation here, kind of a joke at AFC. Who is Matt White? Like she said, I'm the Director of Distributed Systems at Chipola College, and I'm also the 2020 AFC State President. I love this picture here back when Disney World was open. My firstborn there, you know, the Lion King. So maybe they'll open back up again, and we can all go back after this Corona mess. So, but all things IT kind of is my day job here at the college that pays the bills. So that's kind of a little bit about me. So this webinar is about Zoom. And there are a lot of different video or meeting conferencing tools out there. There's Teams, there's, in addition to Zoom, there's Teams. Google has a new one called Meet, I think. And there's WebEx. There's even like voice conferencing, something, there's a free one out there. But Zoom seems to be the popular one out there. There is a free account. If you go to their website, zoom.us, instead of it saying my account up here, it would say join, and you can join for free. There is limitations on the free account. It's less than 100 people that you can have in a meeting. It's a 40-minute time limit, and people cannot call in to that. So there are some limitations on the free account. A lot of the schools have purchased Zoom. And a lot of businesses are purchasing Zoom. Like AFC, we purchased Zoom, and there's with the large meeting add-ons, we can have up to 500 people. So, Zoom is just one of the platforms, and that's kind of what we're going to cover here. We covered a WebEx in another meeting. So if you are interested in that, look for that webinar. All right, so one of the questions lately with everybody Zooming is to Zoom or not to Zoom, you know, is that the question? So tip number one is kind of, and this is what a lot of people ask me, should you, before we get into that, I see somebody in the chat says Facebook's working on something. Yes, Facebook, that's a good point. Facebook did just release their rooms or something, I forget what it's called, and it's a Zoom competitor. I think the problem with it, from what I would see, I haven't used it yet, and I'm going to look more into it, but you would need to be friends with all those people, I think, on Facebook. I'm not sure if you can allow non-Facebook people or non-friends to be in your Facebook. So whereas Zoom, you know, you just need, somehow or other, they need to get the meeting ID and password, and they can connect. They don't have to be your friend on Facebook. But yes, good point there that Facebook is coming out with something too. Like I said, one of the questions I get asked these days a lot is, what should I use? Should I use Teams? Should I use Zoom? In Zoom specifically, kind of the good, the bad, the ugly, Zoom is about the easiest to use, quite frankly. It's easy to set up. It's easy to set up or to get a free account. You go to their website, you put in your email address, and then I think a password, and then it'll email you a confirmation, and you click on the confirmation in your email, and then you're set up. I mean, it's very easy, and it's very easy to schedule a meeting too. On the flip side, it's very easy for people to connect to the meetings. My son, they're Zooming every Monday. I think he has one Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for his school, and the teacher uses Remind to send out the Zoom room number and then the password, and that's, you know, they connect to Zoom, and it's very easy to connect. That's kind of its biggest selling, one of its biggest selling points is simplicity or ease of use. It's also well known. A lot of people are using it these days. I think I forget how much they increased their users this after the coronavirus situation, but it's a lot, and there's a lot of people using Zoom. Zoom has the gallery view. So if you are looking at it right now, and we'll get into this in another tip, but Zoom, you can see everybody, whereas Teams, you can only see 4 at a time. They're working on it. Teams is working on I think up to 25, I want to say. And WebEx has a grid view as well, but I think you can only see 25 at a time. The Teams, Zoom, you can go, you can see lots of people on the screen at the same time. So it'll get very small videos of people, but that is one of the advantages of Zoom, and their ability to kind of some of the secret sauce in their ability to get the video. You're seeing a bunch of different video feeds, but it doesn't really impact your bandwidth as much as some of the other platforms. So, which is, I think, some of the reason why some of the other ones don't do so many video, because they don't. You're having all those video feeds, and it would impact your network performance. But that's another advantage. So if you're looking to see people and you want to see everybody together, Zoom is a great one. I know my personal Zoom account for free. We use it for the family, and my brother's in Atlanta, and my family is across town. But we use it to get together, and it's great just to see everybody, for my kids to see everybody. So that's one of the advantages. Virtual backgrounds. We'll talk about that towards the end. As you can see by my logo back here, AFC logo, virtual background. That can be good and bad, depending on what people put up there. But it does. When I do WebEx and when I do Teams, I have a green screen at the house. I'm at my office today for this, but at the house I have a green screen to give me a little bit better background. And when I'm on Teams and WebEx, they see the green screen, because they don't have that feature. So the virtual backgrounds feature is a good feature. So that's kind of some of the good for Zoom. Some of the bad and the ugly. Zoom bombing. Right after everybody started using Zoom in this stuff, Zoom bombing came along, and what that is, if you have not heard of it, is people showing up to meetings, jumping into meetings that weren't invited or not necessarily part of the group. And they are, one of the other things, like I said, it's easy to use and everybody can use it. Well, Zoom by default had allowed everybody to share their screen. So people would jump into these meetings and they'd find the links online, and then they would show bad stuff on the screen and share their screen. And so that's what Zoom bombing is. It's one of those where Zoom made it really easy to use, and by that aspect, it made it really easy to do this bad stuff in it, the Zoom. And they have since tightened their some of their settings, some of their default settings that we'll get into, and they recommend you to have a password on your meetings. So that kind of stops some of that. The waiting room, we'll get into some of that stuff in the security, but there were some security concerns, and that led to the Zoom bombing stuff, but they've made some changes, and there are some things you can do to prevent that as well. And then some other security concerns. So Zoom, some of the other ones like WebEx and Teams, I believe, are end-to-end encrypted. That means that nobody can get into your phone call or your meeting and see your stuff. Zoom is not end-to-end encrypted. They are making some changes come along with version 5, I think, that's coming out in May, where they're getting more towards that. They're increasing their encryption level, but Zoom keeps the key. So in theory, they could listen in on your conversations. There are some companies out there that have blocked Zoom because of that, like Google, for one. They have a competitor, so that's, I think, why they blocked it. But I'm sure they don't want internal people talking about Google, what they're doing in Google, and then Zoom potentially being able to see that. And then like some of the I want to say NASA or somebody, but then again, if they have privacy stuff and they don't want people in, but if you're using Zoom and you're doing family stuff, or even you're doing stuff on your your class, I don't know what you're talking about that would need to be highly secure like that. So and then there's been no instances that I've seen in the security that where somebody's hacked in or Zoom is looking in on your phone calls or anything like that. It's just, that's just to be upfront with you, that's one of the things. So, and then the software, they had a software update. The client on the machine was, I think, vulnerable or something, and it needed to be updated. And that's one of the tips we'll get into, is keep your software updated. But if you're using a Windows machine or you're using an Apple phone, all those have software updates. No, I've yet to find the most secure software that is that is immune to security updates. So it's one of those. If you're using Facebook, I would not be concerned with Zoom's privacy or security stuff. Stay in the know about it, but it's no different than what like Facebook's doing, for example. So. And then, like I said, some organizations do block the use of Zoom. And we have heard that a college or two is blocking the use, not just having Zoom for meetings, but they won't allow their people to even use Zoom. That's that's up to them. But that is a thing potentially. To be aware of, that if you have a Zoom meeting, that some people may not be able to attend. But we have yet to have like a board meeting, AFC board meeting, or a college meeting here at the college, or anything with other colleges yet where somebody said, no, I cannot attend because of Zoom. But just like I said, there are some organizations that do block Zoom, but we haven't run across that yet. So the good, the bad, it really comes down to what you feel comfortable using and what your organization allows. So, I would recommend Zoom to people, and I do recommend Zoom to people. Just like I said, be aware of some of the security stuff, and we'll go through some of those options there. But that's kind of the good, the bad, the ugly of should you use Zoom, and that's probably the first question I get. So moving on to tip number 2. So let's talk about securing Zoom. We're going to go through some of these settings in a minute, but one of the big things, the links were out there on social media and on websites. And for like this webinar, we had to do that. So if you can, don't do that with your personal stuff or your college stuff. But if it's your class and you got to put the link out there for your class, you got to do what you got to do. Then you need a password on it, and you need the waiting room feature turned on. So if you cannot put your meeting link out there to the public, it's best, because then they don't know your meeting link. But if you have to, you got to do. The next thing is you have a personal meeting ID. So that ID never changes. It's your PMI. Don't use that if you can get around it. Some people use it like to have office hours and stuff like that. And they'll say, here's my personal meeting ID. And, so that way they don't have to schedule a room. If people use your personal meeting ID, they jump right into your room. If you don't have a password for your personal meeting ID. But it's best not to put that out there. When you schedule a meeting, it will give you a random meeting ID. It's different from that, and so it's best to use that and not give out your personal meeting ID. But some people do that, like I said, for office hours, so they don't have to schedule a meeting. But so that's just something to be aware of. And these are a Zoom best practices. That there's a link at the very end that has a Zoom security, a PDF that we can send you. So anyways, that's kind of about the meeting links. Choose host only for screen share and control during the meeting. That's the default setting now. Zoom has changed that. Like I said, they've changed some of their settings. Allow only signed in users to join a meeting. The problem with that is not everybody has a Zoom account. So if they don't have a Zoom account, then they won't be able to sign in like that. So that's a suggestion. But like I said, if you're having people outside your organization, or you're having doing a personal Zoom meeting, you may not be able to have them signed in. So use the lock feature to prevent random users from joining in. So if you have a meeting scheduled for 6 people and all 6 people are there, you can lock the meeting, so that if for some reason your meeting ID got out or your password got out, they could not, somebody else couldn't jump in. I mean, if you know 6 people are going to be on the call and they're already on the call, you could lock the meeting. That's not so great for conferences or a webinar like this where people are coming and going. But if you have a small meeting, definitely look into that. And if you are Zoom bombed, hover over the user's name in the participants menu and it'll bring up a remove option and you can kick them out. So that's an option, but you have to see it, you have to catch it. But that's the thing, you can kick people out. And then of course, I talked about keeping the Zoom software updated. They had a security update that was released and they had a new version. And then in May, they're going to have a big version coming out, version 5.0, that's going to have a lot of security updates in it too. So just those are some tips. So check your settings, tip number 3. So there are a couple places for settings. There's online. So if you have a Zoom account and you can set up some settings for your meetings. And you can also put in your picture for your profile. If you look at my little icon in the window here, you can see I have a profile picture there. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. And you have to have a Zoom account in order to set the profile picture. And then there are settings inside the Zoom software on your machine that you can set too. So let's jump into, let me get to settings here, and let's look at some of these settings. So if you're logged into your Zoom account, this is my free account that I have. If you want to set your profile picture, which somebody asked about just a minute ago, you can click on it'll be like an icon up here, and you can click on your name, and then right here, you can say change, and then you can upload a picture. It has to be smaller than 2 megs. So my picture was like 4 or 5 megs, this picture was. And so I had to open up Paint and reduce the size of the picture down and save it as a different picture and then upload it. But it needs to be under 2 megs. But that's how you save a profile pic there. Yes, that was my application for president-elect there. Somebody said nice pic. My wife took it in our president's conference room there. I thought that looked presidential, so. Okay, so also under your, you got your information for your personal meeting ID, and it doesn't show you mine, just the last 3, and your link, and some of the other stuff. I'm limited to 100, your time zone. But if we go over here to settings, so here are some settings that you have. And this is default settings when you schedule a meeting. So you probably want to have your host video on for when you schedule a meeting. So that way, because more than likely you're going to have your host video. And then you can have participants. I would leave that off. You can turn it on. If you're having a large meeting, you might want to leave it off. But that's a setting you might want to look at. That if you have participants video off, that would stop the Zoom bombing. So audio type tells how they can connect. Join before host, that would allow them to join the meeting before the host arrives. I usually leave that off because if you're the host, you kind of want to control things when you get in there. So I would leave that off. Use a personal meeting ID when scheduling, leave that off. That's what we talked about. Don't use your personal ID when scheduling a meeting. Using the personal meeting ID when you start an instant meeting, that's off. Only authenticated users. We talked about that. Not everybody is authenticated, so you might want to leave that off. Require a password when scheduling new meetings. This is something that Zoom has set by default, and you want to leave that on. So you want a password when scheduling new meetings. That is one of the things. If the link gets out there, then they've got to have they've got to have the password as well. See, that was the problem. The link would get out there and they were not setting a password to make it easy for people to get on. And so that's how people were Zoom bombing and jumping in these meetings. So you definitely want to require a password there. And require a password for instant meeting is fine. And then you can actually set up a password for using your personal meeting ID. And you'll want to do that as well. And I think Zoom has default set all these because I don't remember setting those. And that's one of the things that they've done. Let's see. Embed password and meeting link. That's when you clicked on the link that was sent out, the password was already embedded in the URL, so that's a good thing. Is that way you don't have to put in the password again. The password for joining by phone is fine, because if you don't have that, then they could get on the audio and potentially say some bad stuff still. Mute participants upon entry. That's one that I would suggest probably turning on, especially if you're doing large meetings, because when people come in, they would be unmuted, and then you're gonna have to manually go through muting them. So that's one that you probably want to turn on if you're having large meetings. You can always turn that off in the settings in your meeting. You can send a reminder to your desktop client, and then we get into some in-meeting settings. So we've got chat. Allow the participants to send chat to everybody. So that's one thing. If you have a large meeting and you don't want people to send the chat, you know, people can put bad stuff in the chat that everybody sees. Here's an option where you can turn that off. And it'll turn off private chat and it'll turn off auto saving chat. So that's something that you might want to, typically it's left on, but you know, that's another option to stop some of the Zoom bombing type stuff. Private chat, you can have it to where they can't private chat each other. And then auto saving chats, let's see, I'm trying to see if there's anything else in here security wise. Okay, who can share? So I would definitely recommend host only who can share. If you have all participants, that's what the Zoom bombing, when they get in and they see they can share, then by this setting right here, anybody can share. So you definitely want to leave it as host only. I would definitely suggest that in terms of security stuff. And then who can share when someone else is sharing, only the host can take over. That's because this is the host only can share. Now you can always go to the participants in the list, in the controls, you know, when you click the participants and they show up, and you can give somebody the permission to share their screen and still have this on. So let's see, whiteboard, allow participants to share a whiteboard during a meeting. So you may want to turn that off, because if they share a whiteboard and it's got bad stuff on the whiteboard, you know what I mean? So that's another option that you probably want to turn the whiteboard off. And I think you can enable that in the controls in the meeting if somebody needs to share a whiteboard. Now, like I said, if you only got a few people and you know the people, you know, it's fine. Let's see, remote control during screen sharing, the person who is sharing can allow others to control the shared content. I would probably turn that off. It just depends on how you want to do it. What it's saying is that you could be sharing a presentation and somebody else could control that presentation, like PowerPoint, go left and right in the PowerPoint slides. And actually, I did not know that you could do that, because that was a question that we were looking at in an event the other day, Marcia. So that's an interesting feature right there that they've added. Let's see. Allow remove participants to rejoin. I would leave that one off. If you kick somebody out, then if you have that on, then they could come back in, and so you don't want to do that. I think it's by default it's off. Rename themselves. Sometimes people come in as their kid, because they're you know, they're doing their kids' schoolwork during the day. We had somebody the other day, and we were like, "Who is that?" And they messaged us and said, "That's my son's account," or something. So you do probably want to leave it on to where they can rename themselves. However, if you have bad people on there, you know, they could rename themselves to something bad. So, but typically, you know, it's fine to leave that on. So, you could also hide participant profile pictures in the meeting. I'd probably leave that off. There are breakout rooms that you can do. Some of the settings in here, captions, virtual backgrounds on. You can turn that on or off. Most of the time, people leave it on. Waiting room. So that's another big one. When people come into the meeting, you want them in a waiting room, and then at the very least, their name has to look somewhat okay. That doesn't necessarily mean they're okay, but you know, if they're going to come in and it's going to have some bad words on their name, you know, you definitely don't want to allow them into your room. So the waiting room is another feature that Zoom has turned on by default, and that you want on. So let's see. What a meeting is, that's just notification. And I think that's about it. So that's meeting settings right there. And that's the online, that's kind of stuff you set up in your account for Zoom. The other kind of meeting settings, or the other settings for Zoom, is settings in the app itself. So you have the app on your phone, you can have the app on your tablet, you can have the app on your desktop. So there are some settings in the app, and I'm going to go through a couple of the desktop settings. One of the things you might want to do is mute your microphone, choose mute your microphone when joining a meeting, and turn off your video when joining a meeting. What this does is it allows you to kind of get yourself set, and then when you join the meeting, you can unmute yourself and you can show your video kind of thing. So that's a setting that we'll show you here. So these are the settings in the app, kind of general settings. I think Zoom wants to start when Windows starts, so I always uncheck this in the settings. And if you open the app, there's a little gear, I think in the top right, and that's how you get these settings. I always uncheck that, so when I want Zoom to start, I'll open it up. I don't want it to start with Windows and run all the time. Let's see. I think that's about it in these settings here. These are video settings. So this is what you can choose your camera. If you have multiple cameras, you can choose that, and you can have different ratios. You can enable HD. I wouldn't do that. I would leave that off. Touch up my appearance, which we'll get to. I think that that's a pro tip we'll get to in a little bit, but that smooths out some of the wrinkles, I believe, is what it's kind of makes it kind of doesn't see as much, kind of touches it. I see Marcia Connor liking that one there. You don't need any touch up, Marcia. You don't need touch up. So and then let's see. Always display participant names in their video. You probably want to have that on, because as you're looking at people and people are talking, it helps, and you don't know a lot of the people, it helps to see their name on the video. So if that gets turned off, here's how you can turn that back on, and that's right there. And like I said, turn off my video. You can check that box if you want to. And then here were the other settings in that video. Hide non-video participants. That's a pro tip we'll get to in a little bit. Like right now, there are 92 people connected to this. Not everybody is showing their video, so you can hide all those boxes where it just has somebody's name and only see the boxes where it has a video. So that's a really great tip, and that way you're not having to scroll through or show a whole bunch of boxes that of just people's names. You'll still see them in the participant list, but in the video gallery, you'll only see the ones with video. So that's a pro tip right there. I think that's about it. Audio, and you would have mute my microphone when joining a meeting down there. That's an option right there. And you can also test your stuff here ahead of time, which we'll get into. That's another tip we'll get into in just a minute. Okay, so tip number 4. Here is a kind of a con, I guess, for Zoom. Zoom, like WebEx, you schedule a meeting and you put in their email, and WebEx sends out the reminders, it sends out the invites and all that great stuff. Zoom does not do that. You schedule the meeting, and then it will give you a link, and that's these buttons down here, and you can click on that, and it will open up a calendar invite, and then you can use your Outlook to send out the meetings and all that. If you just copy the meeting invite and you put it in an email, the meeting invite doesn't have the time and the date in it, and or what time zone it is, which is something we were hosting a conference, and it was the Region 1 conference was supposed to be in Northwest Florida State College, which is Central Time, but then it went virtual, and then we said 8 a.m., but we didn't really specify, and so in Eastern Time, everybody was on at 7 a.m. Central, because, so there was a mix-up. So, but if you use Outlook to send the invite, it will put the time, and you schedule the date and time, and I believe I have an invite here. Like for example, this is what it opens up in your Outlook, and you can schedule the date and the time. It's already done. It's already set up, and that's your time. And then when it sends it to them, if they're in Eastern Time zone, it'll put it in their time. And then you can, of course, invite attendees, and then you can put in your attendees here, email addresses, and then you can send it to them. And that also puts it on your calendar, and it will send them an invite and put it on their calendars as well. So that's a pro tip right there, a really great tip. use Outlook to send the invites, because that is one downside of Zoom that doesn't send out the invites. And that's just kind of showing you what it does. Okay, let's see. Oh, tip number 5. So when you get in, test your audio and video. People will jump into a meeting, and they'll jump into a meeting and they won't test their audio and video. It's really easy to do that. You can do it ahead of time if you have the Zoom app in the settings. We saw that earlier. If you're in the meeting and you want to, for some reason, want to test your audio and video, like you're having trouble, if you click the little mute icon down in the bottom left, you'll see right here, test speaker and microphone. And it'll go through this setting. It'll play a ringtone, and you say, yes, I hear. And you can choose different speakers if you need to. It'll say speak and pause, and do you hear a replay? And you say something, and then you stop, and then it'll replay it back to you. If you don't hear what you're saying, then change your microphone here. You can choose the microphone. So that's a tip too. Test your audio and video, and you should see your video when you enable the video. So that's how you test that. And if you don't see your video, actually, in the little arrow right next to video, you can click that and you could choose a different, I think I have it in the virtual background slide. There's a video of what that menu does, but you can choose a different webcam if you have a different one for some reason. Okay, tip number 6. So we are here, and I'm sharing my screen, and I'm also speaking too. There are different views you can have. So there's speaker view, where it will show you the screen, and then it will give you like a little bar across the top of a few of the people's videos. Or you can choose the gallery view, and that will show you a gallery of everything. So know that there are other views in it. Like if you don't see everybody, then you can choose the gallery view, because you may be seeing the speaker view. And then another tip, if you have a dual monitors, you can do the full screen view, and you can open chat, which is what I'm doing, because I have 4 monitors. Shh, don't tell nobody. But I have multiple monitors, so I have full screen view, and then I have the chat and the participants, and also my PowerPoint in presenter mode. They're open in another window, so that I can kind of see it better. And then I actually have the gallery in another monitor up top here. So just know that if you have more than one monitor, full screen view is your friend, because you can move windows around. If you don't have it in full screen, then everything shows in the one window. And if you only have one monitor, then you can only do that. But you can still go full screen in one monitor. You have to go down to the bottom and choose participants, and it'll open up a little window, and choose chat, and it'll open up a little window, and it'll be on top of your main window. So, like I said, adjust the screen view to how you like it. And like I said, the pro tip there, hide the non-video participants. And I think if you right click on any video, anybody's video, you right click, yep, it says show non-video participants or hide non-video participants. So that's a tip right there, to be able to get your screen down to only seeing the people that have video. Like I have a gallery view, and it's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 4, it looks like, and that's all the people that have video out of 92 people. So that's really great. So just a tip. And that's the speaker view icon in the top right there. This is gallery view, and then if you click that, it would change it to speaker view. And then if you're in speaker view, it would say gallery view, and that's how you go back and forth up there. And then also the little icon right here is how you go full screen up there. So, all right, tip number 7, mute. This goes both ways. Mute yourself when you're not speaking. It just goes better for everybody. You got to remember to unmute yourself. And if you're a host and you're presenting or you're running a meeting, mute everybody. And you can, there's a mute all buttons at the bottom of the participants window, or you can mute people individually. If people are not muted in your participants window, they'll show up there with, it won't be red, it'll show the icon. And then if you're getting feedback noise or noise from somebody, the little microphone will light up. Like I'm speaking and my microphone, the volume's going up and down. So that's how you can tell who's speaking or who's got background noise. and also who's not muted. So like I said, mute yourself when you're not speaking, and then if you're presenting or you're running a meeting, mute everybody, kind of thing. It helps things go great. Like Eileen has got most everybody muted here for this webinar. So let's see, and then like I said, that's the little icon right there. I'm not muted there, and then when I move over myself, I had the option to mute there to show you what this is in the participants window. Just kind of give you an idea. All right, tip number 8. Don't forget about the chat. I have not been looking at the chat, so I haven't forgotten about it. And this was also my reminder. And we'll probably get to the chat, all the chat questions at the end. Right now, in a webinar, it's a little bit different, or a conference, it's a little bit different. But in a meeting, people may be chatting, with you or with other people. So, don't forget the chat dialogue. If you're in full screen, you can put it in another window, and you do have to open it up, like the participants window and the chat window. It'll flash for you down there and let you know there's new chats, but I would suggest keeping it open. If you're not in full screen view, keep it open on the right side there. And if you are in full screen view, keep it open, but in another window kind of thing. So, don't forget about the chat. And also, like, I'm sharing my screen, and so for me to get to the chat, that's another thing. When you're sharing your screen, the controls go away from the bottom and they're at the top. That's another probably tip that should be in there. Everybody says, how do I stop sharing, or how do I get back to the chat or to whatever? When you're sharing your screen, the controls move to the top. There's a little green bar says you're sharing your screen. You can stop share, or when you move your mouse over, it'll go down and it'll give you options there to get to the chat and the various things there. So tip number 9, have good lighting. Having a window behind you or a light behind you, it's got to be what it's got to be if that's the spot where your desktop is or your computer is, kind of thing. But, it's preferable not to have a window behind you or a light behind you. Have the window or the light in front of you so it shines on you in front of your computer kind of thing. Because what you end up being is you end up being dark in the video and everything's light behind you. Or you can just not share. If for some reason you're not able to have good lighting, just don't share your video. Put a profile picture though, so that way you have a good profile picture there. But yeah, good lighting is a good thing, especially if you're presenting. Okay, so tip number 10, we're getting through it. Tip number 10, our last tip here, virtual backgrounds. So as you can see, I have the AFC logo back here. Somebody said, how do you choose I just saw the chat, profile photo instead of the virtual background? So I will show you. Let me get to my controls here, and I'm going to choose virtual background, and I'm going to say none. As you can see, my office here, I'm going to turn off my video. So you should be seeing a profile picture of me now, right? I believe some people are shaking their heads yes. So turn off your video, and when you turn off your video and you have a profile picture, then it will show your profile picture instead of your video. So I'm going to turn that back on, and I'm going to choose my virtual background here. There's all kinds of different backgrounds you can have. Just hanging out in the office, no big deal. I can always be in a beach, there's the old Seinfeld set there. You can have professional stuff, which is always great. I realized that my background was black on with my black shirt here, so I had to change the AFC logo there. So virtual backgrounds are great. You can kind of give it a more professional look, and kind of mix it up a little bit there. So to do that though, let's see. Another thing about virtual backgrounds, people say, oh, I can't do virtual backgrounds. Your computer has to have horsepower to do virtual backgrounds, because it is churning all that in the background, and like you see my arm's gone, my left arm's gone out, you know what I mean? It has to have the resources to do that if you don't have a green screen. My laptop at the house is not a very powerful laptop, but I had a green screen, so it's able to still do it with the green screen. And a green screen is just that. It is a green piece of sheet hanging, and it is a like a green, lime green kind of, well, you can't see it there, but something like that hanging there. So if your computer won't do the virtual backgrounds, and it'll tell you, say you're not able to do it without a green screen, you can find a green screen online, and you can do it that way. And then the other pro tip was touch up my appearance. That was in the video settings we saw. It'll soften the focus of your camera, and it theoretically minimizes any issues with your skin. It's what I found somewhere. So, and then here's how you select your virtual background. For the video icon down there, you click the little arrow pointing up and choose virtual background. And then when you do that, you have the options there. You can click the plus to add, and it's a picture. You can even add video. There's a guy online that took video of himself walking in on himself in his office, and then he made that his background. And so he's in a meeting, and then in the background he walks in on himself and was like, and walked out, kind of thing. I've been meaning to do that, but I haven't got a chance to video that at my house. But so you can't have video too and motion backgrounds kind of thing. So like I said, virtual backgrounds does matter with the computer you're using if you don't have a green screen. So and that's the box right down there. I have a green screen. Here's another tip. When I see my video on my laptop for the background, like for example, I'm trying to change my virtual background there, and I'm looking at the PowerPoint. But if I go to my virtual background and I choose this one here, on my laptop, the camera is reversed. So when I see my video, I see it backwards, and I thought something was wrong. And so I flipped the image, and I had the image backwards, and I put that up there. And then when I saw it, it looked right. Well, I had the Chipola College logo back there reversed for in the image, and it looked right to me. And I sat through a whole meeting, and nobody told me that it was wrong. And then I got into the AFC one, and I showed this one, and they said, your thing's backwards. And I said, oh my gosh, I was in that other meeting. So if you're on your laptop, you're seeing the reverse of your camera. And so don't think it's wrong if the wording is backwards. It's right when everybody sees it. So that's a pro tip if you have a logo or you have some words on your screen. Like I'm sitting here in my office with a webcam, and it looks right on this, but on my laptop, because the laptop shows you your flipped image for some reason, the background looked wrong, but the picture was right. So as long as your picture wording is right, then your background's going to look right. So just that's a little tidbit right there. So let's see.
Matt, you want questions now?
I got a couple more things, and I'm almost done, and then we'll see.
Okay.
Some advanced tips. So there are keyboard shortcuts. And this will be, like I said, the presentation will be out there. So one of the big things was mute audio and mute everyone. So on a PC, Alt-M. So if you're the host and you're hosting something and you hear some feedback, Alt-M. And if you want to invite somebody, you can do Alt-I. Seems to be really easy on the PC. On a Mac, you got to kind of use two hands to do on a Mac. But muting your audio, turning your video on and off. There's some commands there. Sharing your screen. These are some keyboard shortcuts that might make it easy. The biggest one is the last one, and muting everyone. I would say if you're having trouble, somebody's feeding back, mute everyone and go from there. Then start unmuting people to try to see. So that's kind of a little bit there. And then, another advanced thing. So there is this thing called Snap Camera, and I have to turn off my virtual background. So Snap Camera is Snapchat, and let me get to the right. It's free to download. Snapcamera.snapchat.com. So this is your crazy out there kind of tip to make things interesting, like for the family and stuff like that. It's free to download. It runs on your machine, and then when it runs, it gives you a virtual camera. And so when you have to start it before you start Zoom, and then you point Zoom to this camera, the Snap virtual camera. And by doing that, I will show you. Let me do stop sharing, and then I will show you. Oh, I should have gone back to. Let me share my screen again. Hold on. Let me move this window over there. So this is what it looks like. Can everybody can see the Snap camera? So if I wanted to have a cat on my head, I now have a cat on my head. You know, if I wanted to be a, those are work ones. If I wanted to be a pickle, I can be a pickle. You know what I mean? So these are pretty crazy. You know, I could be a pirate, kind of thing. So it's pretty neat. You know, so definitely something to do if you're wanting to. There's one that's the potato. Let's see. That's always really good. So I can be a potato, you know, in the ground kind of thing. So it's called Snap Camera. And, you know, I don't know that I would recommend this for business meetings or business purposes, but definitely for home and for other stuff and stuff like that. You can have all kinds of crazy different things there. So install the app, start the app, and then I got to get out of my, let's see, let me go to that and let me go back to that. Start the app, install the app, start the app. Start Zoom, change your camera. I think I had a, let me get back to here. So right here, see how I have a quick camera and I also have a Snap camera. I choose the Snap camera right here in this little drop now, and then it changes it to the other one. So that's how you change the cameras. And then you just click on the filter in the Snap camera app. So that was the keyboard shortcuts. Somebody said they wanted the keyboard shortcuts. I believe, hold on just a second, I'll go back to that. Yeah, I have one more slide. So the Zoom resources, best practices for securing your Zoom meetings. And let me do this. Let me click on here. Yeah, it's going to take me out. I will post this in the chat. Let me see. And then I'll take some questions here in a minute. Let me go to, and then this is, there was another one for best practices for securing your classroom. And then the Snap camera, I'll put that one in the chat too. And then we will take some questions. Let me go back to the keyboard shortcuts. Okay. Marcia, what do we have chat-wise out there?
I think you covered the one about the dual monitor. There was a question earlier about two people sharing the screen at the same time. How do they do that? Do you know?
I don't think you can do that. I think, I haven't seen any setting where you could do that. Does anybody in the chat know how to do that?
Or Pat is saying, or two files. Can you maybe swap between two files?
Yeah.
The host of the meeting can make anyone else during the meeting, it doesn't have to be done during setup, can make someone else a co-host.
Yep.
So if the meeting is set up so the host can only share, then the host can give someone else sharing capability during the meeting by making them a co-host.
Yeah. So they would be able to share, but not at the, I don't know that they can do it at the same, like they have sharing privileges at the same time, but I don't think they can share the same file at the same time, right?
So basically, it couldn't be a split screen, but you could, okay, so Matt turns it over to Tom, and then we would be able to see Tom's screen.
Yeah, I think that's how that works. Yeah.
Okay. I don't, and sorry, y'all, I didn't write down names with the questions, but.
I got one more thing that came up earlier. Someone, you said, you know, don't ever share your personal meeting ID and use that as your office hours. And that's a really good plan. So a trick to get around having to set up Zoom meetings for every time you have office hours is you can set up a recurring meeting.
Yeah, there you go.
And and set that meeting up so no one can share, and you can enable the waiting room and all that fun stuff. And then you can just give out that invite anytime, or just give that out as your office hours.
Right. That's a very good point. Thank you, Tom. Yeah. That would be a great way to get around office hours and not share your personal. Some people do it. You know, if you do share your personal ID, then you know you need to make sure that there is a you need to make sure that there's a password on your personal ID thing. But that is the recurring meeting. You know, if you have office hours, you know, 8 to 5, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday or something, set a recurring meeting, and then it's a different ID and you still have a password. That's great. Thank you, Tom.
But I set one up. I call it my conference room.
Yeah. Great.
Okay. So Tom just covered recurring meeting. Somebody had a question about, I guess, lighting, something about she had an issue with lighting on her face, lower lighting on her face.
Yeah. I think somebody's feeding back there.
If I can go back up.
I think you can, let's see, video. Let's see, advanced. I think you would have to go into your webcam settings. So like I'm using a Logitech webcam that's attached to my computer. It has Logitech software. I don't know that there's a way in Zoom to be able to edit that. But if your web camera has, like Logitech has software that comes with it that you can install, you don't have to install. So you would need to go into your webcam settings to adjust that, the light dark kind of thing.
Okay. Someone is asking, is there a foreign language option?
That's a good question. Let me go into I'm in the settings, advanced. I don't know on that. I would assume it would be under your profile, maybe. Let me go to my profile. Yes. So under your profile settings, language, you can choose, you would choose whatever profile, whatever language you want, and then your meeting would be in that language. Or all your Zoom stuff would be in that language, kind of thing. So.
Okay, Alonda, all this PowerPoint is going to be sent out and on the website. So all of the webinars are recorded. The PowerPoints will be on the website, and everything will be sent out to you. So that's where you'll find all this information. Can you show how to set up a recurring meeting? I think that would be from the Outlook.
Okay, now I'll show you. You can do it in the Zoom when you set up a meeting. So okay. I'm in the Zoom setting, and I've gone to schedule a meeting, and then I put the topic, I put the description, and then when I want it, and I'm trying not to, because it has my personal ID number on this page. Gotcha. It's a free account, but still.
Right.
So I'm trying not to scroll down too far, but you say when you want to have it, the duration, and then right here, this box, check that box, and you can say recurring meetings, and then daily, weekly, monthly, no fixed time. You can have the end date, and then you can have the meeting password, and then you can get into some other stuff. That's how you do it there. Okay. Let me go to meetings. This was the one I had. Let me open up a calendar invite again. So if you want to do a recurring meeting in an Outlook invite, this button right up here, and I'm using Outlook 2019, but in most all the Outlooks in the top up here, there's a recurrence button there, and you got all kinds of options: daily, weekly, monthly, and then you can have it stop on a certain date, or the fourth Tuesday or the first Thursday of every month, kind of deal.
Right. So
that's how you would do it. You would say okay, and then it's checked, and then it says occurs the first Thursday of every month, and then you would hit well, I gotta invite somebody, like if I want to do Marcia Kiner, and then I would hit send right there. So that's how you would do one in Outlook. Don't save the changes. Yep. So
Perfect. Thank you. Abby, can you be in more than one Zoom meeting at a time?
I don't think so. It depends on what you're using. If you have Zoom on your computer and you're in the Zoom meeting on your computer and then you're in a Zoom meeting on your phone, you could do it that way. But I don't know that you can. Honestly, I'm not certain on that, but I would say no. But I don't think you can, because the app on your computer, if you're using the app, it's going to log into whatever meeting you're in, and I don't know that you can have two separate meetings at one time. I would say no, but I'm unsure of that.
Okay. If you're on the computer, it will only allow you to return to meeting.
Yeah, that's
multitasking is way overrated.
Yep.
I agree. Are there any other questions for Matt? Jesse, are you still out there? I can't. Let's see if I exit. There we go.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Other questions for Matt?
Marjorie had a question earlier. I don't know if she's
Marjorie?
still in here. Yeah. She said that her profile picture will show up sometimes when she turns off the video, but then other times it just shows her name. And she was wondering if you knew why.
What I find out is that when I'm not logged into Matt's a pickle. When I just click on a link, like for example, I clicked on the link today from Eileen's email to get to this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not actually logged in to my Zoom account.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, Matt, you are killing me, man.
Yeah.
So, is there a way when I'm not logged in to get my profile picture to be there? Or how do I log in when I just click on a link? I guess it's two questions.
Yes. If you click on the link and you join it and you're not logged in, then it won't put your profile picture. That's why I said to do the profile picture, you have to have a Zoom account and you have to set the profile picture on the Zoom account online. So you have to go online and set, because if you go to the app and you go to settings and you say change my profile picture, it'll take you online and you do that. So let me turn the cat off so you say they can't see while I'm speaking. But so yes, that's probably what's happening is you're going to it and you're not by not logging in. One way, like when because I wanted to make sure my profile picture was here, so that because I was talking about it. So I opened up the Zoom client and I was logged into Zoom on the client. And then I went to my Outlook and I clicked on the link and then it opened up the Zoom client, which was already open and logged in, and then it connected to the meeting. So,
Okay.
If you open up the Zoom client and you log in ahead
First.
first,
Okay.
then I think it'll,
Okay.
so
I'll try that. Thank you, sir.
no problem.
This is
Okay,
awesome.
you all hold on. I want to give Jesse a second to say something, but I see a couple of more questions. Maureen says, for some reason, my app doesn't work to set up meetings, even when I use work user ID and password. Any ideas?
I don't know. That would be one where you'd have to see what's happening on the phone. If you could take a screenshot when you're trying to set up your phone, like you're in the app and you're trying to set it up, take a screenshot of what you're seeing maybe, and email it to me. I can maybe see what's going on, but it's probably going to be something with the phone and specific to that, kind of thing. Like I said, I can definitely help you. You can shoot me some screenshots as to what you're seeing. So.
Okay. All right, before we go, Jesse Clayton is the chair of our Technology Commission, and we wanted to give Jesse a moment to tell you some things about some upcoming activities of the commission. Jesse.
Thank you, Marsha, for that lovely introduction. As Marsha said, my name is Jesse Clayton. I'm the Technology Commission Chair, and I'm at Tallahassee Community College. So, Matt, thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful, and Marsha, thank you for helping us put it together as a commission. We have a few other webinars scheduled that's coming up. So please check the websites, the AFC website. They're posted out there. We also post to the Technology Commission Facebook page, Instagram, and Wimber as well. So if you need to contact me, please, you can email me directly. claytonj@tcc.fl.edu. Hopefully, if you're not a Technology Commission, member, you're thinking about joining, so we would love to have you. We're doing great things on our commission. So if you don't serve on the board, there's other positions that you can serve behind the scenes. We're gonna have a lot of stuff that's coming out. So please join us. Another thing that we have coming up is our exemplary practice award competition. Before we decided to, with this coronavirus, to go Zoom, our commission had already decided to move towards putting our exemplary practice via the web. So that's one of the things. The deadline is for that to submit those for this competition is June the 5th, and we'll be judging those on July the 24th. So please, it's posted on our website. As well as, our Facebook and Instagram. So we're looking forward to a lot of those submissions. So please, first prize, there is some money connected, so that's a good thing. So first prize is $250. Third prize is $150. Then third prize is $100. In order to submit that, you have to. Hopefully by November, we will be able to attending the annual conference. So you have to agree to present at the annual conference. So that's one of the things that you have to agree to in presenting that. Don't think that there's no project is too small or too big. It doesn't have to have a lot of bells and whistles. If you have something that's interesting that you want to push for your college and dealing with technology, because if you think about it, everybody deals with technology across campus. So just think of, and if you need some clarity, you can email me and I'll help you with that, okay? Please, 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 our next webinar for our commission, I believe, Marsha, is February the 14th, correct? If you haven't looked at that,
May
please go ahead.
May 12th.
May 12th?
May 12th.
Okay, please look on the website and register for that as well, okay? Thank you, Marsha.
Yes,
for allowing
sir.
me to speak. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Matt White, any closing remarks?
Just like I said, use what you are comfortable with using. If Zoom is it, here it is. So thank you so much for everybody for attending, and for our wonderful support staff, Marsha and Eileen, for running this webinar, and Jesse for setting up the Technology Commission stuff. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. So thank you everybody for attending.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.